Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and in today's video we're going to be focusing on pressing. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be focusing on pressing in a 2v2 scenario. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we're working with this week and the equipment that we'll be using. So in terms of players this week, we're going to have 12 outfield players plus a goalkeeper. Now you can adapt that for more and less players as well. The small sided game would be benefiting off having 6v6 as a minimum, okay, but obviously we can try and speak about how you can alternate that if you do have less players. And obviously if you have more players, you would just look to add them into certain areas. So in terms of the equipment, we're going to be focusing on using balls, bibs, cones, and then obviously if you don't have the goals that we're trying to use, you can just use small sided goals, or you can just use poles. And then in terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, in terms of the depth in here, okay, now you're going to go between 30 and 40 yards, okay, depending on obviously the age group that you're working with as well. And then in terms of the width, that's just going to be 25 yards. Now, you're going to have the blues here and the reds there to start, and obviously you can look to swap the players over after a set amount of time. Now, the pass is going to be a diagonal pass, and then the nearest player closes down, with then the next player focusing on, obviously, restricting that space inside, and then when the next player, if they do play to the opposite player, looking to pressure the ball. So the players aren't going to start on the line here, they're going to start about 10 yards further up, so they're closer to the players once they've played it. So this ball will get played across to the attacker, who will look to bring it in. Whilst that's happening, we're closing down, okay? So the nearest man presses, then the second player, after they played that ball, they look to narrow off it. Don't want to stay in here, because then that route to goal is on. Trying to block that, okay, deflect away. So then we're leaving the space on the far side, okay, but we can manage that because the ball's got to travel. So if this player drives in, we're pressuring the ball, okay? We close that space off. As soon as it comes across here, this player comes in here. Now, what do? You want to assess which foot the player is. So if it's a left footer, you want to get yourself in nice and tight, okay? So if you are going to show them down the line, okay, you're going to have to show them away from goal, okay? So restricting that centre of the pitch, okay? If they're right-footed, even better. But if they are left-footed, okay, can you try and get in there and show them on the right foot? And if we are going to show them on the right foot, that angle there has got to be cut off as well, so they can't. We'll look to cut in and put one into the corner. So then if they try and go down the line, so we try and pressure the ball. So that's where we've got to be aggressive, okay? Got to try and be strong and make it uncomfortable for the attacker. So if they start again here, okay, this player looks to pressure the ball. So if this player is too far away when this player looks to drive forward, it's going to entice them to come in, okay, and try and take us on. Whereas if we get out there quickly, it's going to slow them down. Then they're thinking, they're going to start thinking, what can I do? What have I got to try and do to get past this player? Okay, then they might move it, okay, which means we can try and control it. Again, make it more difficult for them. And then this player starts to think, where's my movement going to go? So if they can run across the defender, okay, we just got to adapt to that, okay? And then make sure we're narrowing the gaps, okay? So then if this player's running on the shoulder there, these players have just got to talk, okay? Now, what you are going to do is have an offside line, okay? So if the player's running behind here, okay, and it gets slid in, that's offside, okay? As it would be in a game. But obviously for us in here, we've got to manage that. So if the player's here and then the ball gets played, that's when we've got to follow in, okay? And then we can look to, okay, if this player gets the ball here, look to suffocate the space, win the ball back, okay, and then we're finished. If you wanted to, you could put in a small-sided goal here, so that if the Blues win it back, they can look to play into there and score. Then you can bring in a counter press, okay, for the Reds, so when they lose it, can they look to stop the Blues from getting out to win it back and then look to score? So there's a little progression there. Once it's finished, players go to the back of the queue. Okay, these players will step up, get ready. These players go to the back of here. These two players will move up into there, and then it'll go from the opposite side, so it gets played in. This player steps out, providing that angle. So see the way they're not on the same line, this player's dropped just below, okay? Just to make sure that pass isn't through to there to really, if this player makes that run. Okay, we're blocking that so we can manage the ball and we can see it in front of us, and then we look to put pressure on the ball. Okay, so slow the attackers down, look to manage it, and then we look to win the ball. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session. We're going to be focusing on transitioning from attack to defence. Obviously we're focusing on getting into our shape quickly to be able to press the ball and making sure that we are suffocating the space again, okay, so making it difficult for the attackers to try and score. Now, in terms of the setup for this part of the session, so the depth in here, again, can go up to about 40 yards, okay? That's your maximum, okay? Your minimum would be 30, so you want to base it between those two there. And then the width is going to be similar, so you're going to go for about 30 yards of width in general, okay? You can look to increase or decrease that again. If you have more players, you can just add them into areas, okay? So the Reds are going to be the team pressing the ball after they've transitioned, and the Blues are going to be attacking, okay, in the different directions. They've got to focus on getting into shape quickly. So the coach will play into one of the attackers in here, okay? And then they're looking to drive in, okay, to try and score. So it's a 3v1, so it should be quite a quick attack, okay, to score. So obviously the defender's going to look to close down, gets played into here, okay, we get ourselves back in, and then we can look to finish. As soon as that's finished, so as soon as the ball's gone out, or there's a goal, out of play, okay, then the side who's going to have the ball, so the side who's got two players, is going to look to attack. So what are we focusing on then? Okay, let's get up the pitch, okay. So we've got a barrier of 3 there, okay, so it's like a midfield 3. So when this player brings it in, nearest player looks to press the ball, okay? The player's behind that, so this player here is going to be ensuring that they're screening, okay, this player, okay, and ready to lock on. This player as well is making sure that they're protecting the space. This player is going to press the ball, okay? This player is going to get ready to lock on, okay, and this player is screening the passes. Because if this player's up here, okay, there's more of a route for that ball there, and also they get into a foot race here, they might lose out. So they're trying to attack into this goal here. So screen the pass, okay, stay close to here, because then if this player pulls out to there and it goes to there, then we can look to get out there, okay. This player can come across, this player can drive in, okay, it can drop in as well. And then if it comes down the line in here, we can look to put pressure on the ball, okay, and then get the player's head down. Okay, because that's the thing we've got to do. We've got to make it uncomfortable for the players. So if this ball comes out here and we just sloppy get out there, just jog it across, okay, by the time this player comes to support and this player drops in, that pass will have been on. Okay, so what we've got to focus on is our body shape as well. So when we're pressing this player here, we're trying to block angles off to play through so that this player in behind, okay, can help support that pressure when it comes into these areas here, okay, to make it 2v1. So when they come on the outside, we can look to win it back. Now, the Reds win it back, they can score in that team's goal here. So when this side are attacking into there, if they win it back, they can score into here. So again, we can get the counter press. The Reds win it back, the Blues can look to get back in. When a ball comes in here, look to win the ball. So on the counter press, they've got it again, getting it close to the ball, okay, making sure they're getting in a position where they can win it and not just one player pressing the ball. Obviously here we're focusing with the Blues. So nearest player is pressing, screening the passes, and then we're getting ready to lock on as well. So for this player again, don't lock onto this player too early, because if they spin off, okay, or the ball gets played in the turn, there's more chance of being out, getting took out the game. Whereas you can see that pass, you're a couple of yards away, so when the ball travels, that's when you can lock on, okay, and that's when you make it uncomfortable for the player, because then they might have already thought about their decision. Then we get it again, players look to come in and lock on, okay, we're screening the passes. So then it comes into here and 2 players can screen onto it, okay, and then the players start to panic, okay, there's 3 players around me, where am I going to go? So then they might try and turn on the blind side, we win it back, and then we can score. After it's finished, players swap over, move to the back, move to the back, move back to the back of here. These players move back into here, one defender comes into here, and then the coach will play in again, and then we go again. Teams can swap over after a certain amount of time. Okay, so showing into congested areas, okay, our body shape, okay, the player who's pressing, nearest player presses, one of the players looks to screen, next player gets ready to lock on, okay, but we lock on when the ball travels, okay, we don't lock on too early, because like I said, we can be took out the game, so you're looking to obviously force the opposition into a certain area where you know you can go and pressure the ball, and we've got to be aggressive to try and win the ball back. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, now moving into the final part of this week's session. We're now moving into more of a small-sided game-based scenario. Okay, so you want to try and maximise the space that you've got. So if you've got half a pitch, use half a pitch. Okay, if you want to bring it in a little bit, you can. If you've got 6v6, let's say you had 8v8, so you had 2 wide players in here and then let's say 2 centre-backs or 2 full-backs, then you obviously want to try and use half a pitch. If you've got obviously working with younger players and you're taking certain players out of areas and you might have less players, let's say 5v5, then you can look to bring it in more. Now, what we're going to be focused on is setting up quickly when the ball goes out, so getting into our start positions. So we're going to be trying to focus on stopping the opposition playing out. So as you can see here, the front 3 and the midfield 3 have got their start positions. Whatever formation you want to play, that's fine. So if you've got 2 strikers, 4-4-2. But obviously, when you're pressing, it's going to set up a little bit differently. So these are going to have 2 midfielders in here, 2 centre-backs, 2 full-backs. So they're trying to play into there. So you're giving them a bit of space, okay, to be able to now allow them to play into there. So if you have an extra keeper, you put an extra goal in, and then you can add the extra players in where you see fit. Now, the front players have got to be brave, okay, so ball comes centre-back comes out to full-back. Right, now this is where this player presses the ball. Midfielders come over, okay, so we're narrowing off. And what you want to see from your opposite winger is that they're narrowed off, okay, and they're staying inside the pitch. What you're looking for from the striker is showing that ball back to the near side centre-back, not stepping up here where that centre-back can get it, okay? Forcing it to here, because then they can look to pressure the ball with support from the players around. So then what you're seeing is you're looking to congest the pitch again, okay? Make it difficult for the opposition. So then ball comes in here again. So this player's screening it, okay? So then when it comes to there, they can lock on to win the ball. And then what have we got? We've got an option in the centre of the pitch, not this wide player staying out there, okay? This wide player's in here, tucked in, so then they can receive the ball and look to finish. Now, for the centre midfielders, obviously it's going to be slightly bit easier for them because there's only 2 midfielders in here. So you can try and maybe tell the full-backs to come inside a little bit. As soon as the ball goes out, okay, either end, you want this to be a start point. As soon as the keeper's got the ball, they can play. So blow the whistle. Players, get yourself set. Okay, let's go. So then if a player looks to drop in, okay, the nearest player looks to lock on, then that whole midfielder looks to come in and protect the space in behind. This player narrows off again, okay? Centre-back gets the ball. Striker, there we go. Can we look to force one way? Winger, stay inside the pitch, okay? This player, let's say they go to spin off. Midfielder comes in with them here, okay? And again, we don't need to be too close to them, okay? We're screening that pass, and if the wide player gets it here, we're goal side. Then this is where the winger's got to put work in when the fullback gets the ball. So you're going to want to show them down the line or you're going to want to show them inside the pitch. Again, centre-back coming across, stopping that centre-back getting it on the floor. Now, what you've got to tell the wingers is that they might be thinking, oh, this fullback's here, okay? But that ball to go from here to there in one pass is going to be difficult, okay? Narrow off inside the pitch, okay? As the ball starts to come across, okay? Hold it, hold the position, okay? This player, if they receive the ball here, that's when we start to come in, okay? That's when we can start to come across the pitch. And then when the fullback gets it, that's when we look to put pressure on it. In a game, you can have your fullback behind you as well, so you can use them as an extra player to push up the pitch. Now, so again, a big thing for the forward is making sure that they're not just square on and allowing passes. Try and cut off one angle, okay? Cut off one side of the pitch to make it difficult. Again, we're narrowing here. We're trying to make it more difficult for them to play out, okay? So then if that ball gets switched into here, the ball's travelling, which means that it gives time for the attacker, the winger to get out there. Again, striker comes across, this player comes across. And the player's got to realise they're not going to win every ball. So if they do get played through here, they've got the back four as well, okay? We're going to be supporting that in there. So again, it's about pressing, screening and locking. So nearest player presses the ball, okay? Players around that look to screen the passes, okay? Get ready to lock on as well. And again, look at that in here now. We're preventing those passes back inside the pitch easily. So we're screening that pass, and then if this player gets it, this player locks on, and then this player will screen passes again. This player screening again. And then you've got the next midfielder, not too tight. Okay, don't need to be in there. They can be more narrowed off in here. So if the ball comes into there, okay, they look to suffocate that space with the other midfielders. And what you give yourself in here is that if you win the ball back, your route to goal is a lot quicker because there's players around the ball able to attack that space quickly. Now, if the fullback bombs on, okay, try and treat it as a game, whereas when the fullback bombs on in a game, usually the winger drops in short, which means the fullback will take the fullback and the winger will take the winger. So you want to try and tell your winger, try not to worry about that too much, okay? If the fullback starts doing this in possession, okay, stay high, okay? And then when it comes into here, this is where we've just got to manage it midfield. In this drill, in a game, you're going to have your fullbacks, because by the time this fullback gets it out here, okay, and we've travelled backwards, we'll be able to protect the middle of the pitch, let that ball come inside, okay, into these areas here, and then we can look to win the ball to then counter-attack again. So it's just about being disciplined, being aware of our surroundings, being proactive in our approach, anticipating the passes, and then from a technical point of view, our body shape, okay, being able to recognise who's pressing the ball, who's screening the passes, when to lock on, okay, where do we show in the opposition, okay, restricting the space and the time on the ball, and then can we look to score quickly once we win the ball back. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all of our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.